2 years later, to give the people ability to override their veto, basically. And this is essentially the legislature trying to babysit the voters and give them a chance to change their mind on things by, in their view, helping uncover the nefarious uses of the process by certain out-of-state entities.
So this is another way of saying that they're still ticked off that there's an ethics commission.
They're ticked off about ethics commission, Marcy's Law, all these things. But, these are the particular measures that come down the line. Those are just excuses because, you and I have talked probably 20 times in the last 12 years about this. The legislature does not like the public's ability to set the terms by which the legislature operates. And that's how our North Dakota Constitution is designed, is to allow the voters to set the framework by which the legislature operates.
By doing what they're attempting to do in Measure 2, you really have given them the ultimate power, because to override that, now you're fighting two battles. You're doing signatures and everything all over again. And so, I mean, here you sit. And it may not be signatures all over again. Don't get me wrong there. What I'm trying to get at is you've got to win two political battles, and they've already won the political battle they're about to fight because they wouldn't pass the damn law.
Yeah, and if you are a group of citizens and you want to do an initiated measure and you don't have a lot of money, then it is already basically an 18-month process to get something on the ballot. The legislature wants to basically double that and create a 3-year campaign process to change the Constitution. And if the goal of the legislature is to get the out-of-state money interests out of the process, this is going to do the opposite, because what happens when you double the length required to run a campaign? You double or triple the amount of money needed. It's hard enough to run a 6-month campaign, as you know. Try running a campaign for 3 years and see how long you can hold the public's attention.
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous. And here's to me the biggest issue. Just because you don't like the results, you try to make yourselves kings. And the people must, or have to at least, be told about this and realize it. I mean, what are you hearing out there in the general public? Do they get that Measure 2 is an attempt to take power away from them?
They're starting to, but the public is not well educated on this. We need to, because this go around, this is really going to be probably the most controversial thing on the ballot in North Dakota, because there's not a lot of other things going on right now. This is really where the battle is going to be fought. Now that Measure 3 has been pulled off of the ballot, people really need to pay attention to this, because our Constitution has given the people the ability to do this for 100 years. The Article 3 of the state constitution is called powers reserved to the people. It doesn't say anything about whether or not the legislature agrees.
Let's include Dave in this conversation. Dave, you're on with Dustin Gawrylow.
Hi, Joel. I just wanted to say it's ridiculous that you have to win 2 elections in a row. Why should you have to win an election twice? You either win or you lose. That's my view.
You're right. I mean, Dustin, he's right.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the idea, and this was, a 3rd or 4th place idea that came out of the last session. There was, I believe, 4 different bills that were tackling different ways of making the process more difficult. But that's been the goal. That was the goal in 2014 when they put 2 measures on the ballot to change the timeline and to change the type of things that could be put into the Constitution. They won one of those battles, and we won the other one. The legislature historically, and it goes way back, but in the last 10 years has really dialed up its efforts to make the initiative measure process more difficult. And the irony is, anybody who's been paying attention to North Dakota politics knows that if it weren't for the initiative and referendum process in the late 80s, Republicans may not have come to power as quickly as they did, because the referrals of 89 are really what propelled Republicans and spelled the end for Democrats.
Well, that's true. That's certainly one of the things that a lot of people point to. I want to get Charles on with you. Charles, you're on with Dustin Gawrylow.
How you doing? Hi, Joel.
Hello.
One of the things that people don't realize also is that the legislature is actually violating the Constitution because it says they cannot do anything to make it or hinder the initiative process. They can only do things to enhance it. And you can just take a look at medical marijuana, how they screwed that up so bad, and it's still, the people voted for it, and it still isn't in place. And when they talk about out-of-state interests, the biggest donor to Doug Burgum is Bill Gates. I don't think Bill Gates lives in North Dakota. So when we talk about out-of-state interests, the Republicans take a lot of money from out-of-state interests like Continental, all these oil companies. They don't live in North Dakota. So it's amazing to me how they have a double standard about what out-of-state interests are.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Dustin, your take on that.
Oh, 100%. It's a hypocrisy issue. The politicians do not want to talk about the out-of-state money they take. They want to talk about the out-of-state money that the certain measures take. And the fact is that the bulk of the initiated measures that go on the ballot are grassroots efforts with groups that have less than $50,000 to work with, which doesn't get you very far in this business.
Yeah. I want to use my home district as an example. And you could pick any district. I mean, we can go to South Fargo where the Roars have now put out signs that they pulled Jim Casper off of because they're more than embarrassed by him, those type of things. These are the legislators that we elect. And the reason I bring this up, Dustin, is in my home district, I've got legislators that voted against the Veterans Home. 2 freshman legislators that voted against township roads, okay? These are the people that represent me in the House. I've got a Senate candidate now. He's just a candidate. He never got elected. But he spent the Burgum-Stingham race constantly bashing Doug Burgum. Well, what good in the world is he going to be to me when he gets down there and the governor says, I ain't working with this wacko? I mean, and believe me, his last name's Heitkamp, and he's Pluto. He's way out there. So just know that. So you've got these 3 people who could easily be in those seats, and they're trying to take away my power for the initiated measure and act as though they're more powerful than the people of their district. I mean, how in the world can you do that?
It's a total disconnect. It's hubris when it comes down to it. The idea that the legislature knows best than the people is the exact opposite of the mentality that was involved in the Tea Party. I mean, the Tea Party movement was based on the idea that the people know better than the politicians. And in North Dakota, we've gone the other way around when it comes to initiative measures, and because we've got these scapegoats of a couple measures in the last few years that have really pushed the envelope as far as things are concerned. But
they don't like the Ethics Commission. They don't like the Ethics Commission. They tried to not it as much. They tried to undermine it as much as what they can because they don't like the Ethics Commission. Charles, who called in a little bit ago, said, you know what? The people in North Dakota voted for medical marijuana. They did. They realize that people can be in such pain, and if marijuana can help them, you know what? Let them help them. But so what did they do? They didn't like the fact it passed, so they put every roadblock you can so that people don't have access to it. I mean, they try to find a way behind the door to undo what the people said. The oil tax is a perfect example of that. So why in the world would anyone give that much power to a legislative body that could care less what they think, Dustin?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. And the hilarious, the funniest thing of this is the fact that the very voters that put the Republicans in the supermajority are the voters that supermajority does not trust when it comes to these actual issues. And how do they get past that? I don't know. How do they get past the fact that if the issue is out-of-state money, let's talk about campaign finance. Let's talk about how the state of North Dakota can exert its 10th Amendment rights to protect its own sovereignty, and even if that means challenging Citizens United. Let's talk about these things. Let's talk about the problems. Instead, they want to make it more difficult for regular citizens that don't abuse the process and don't have a lot of money.
Well, it's left me shaking my head. I mean, it really has. I want to get to Cameron and include him in this conversation. Cameron, do you have a point to make to Dustin?
The measure number 2 is basically a nanny-state measure to where the people of North Dakota aren't smart enough to figure out what an initiated measure is. So we need to have the legislature weigh in and tell us.
That's the perfect way to put it, Dustin. It treats us like we're stupid.
Yep, the legislature thinks that they need to babysit the voters, and it's only a matter of time before this mentality is going to backfire on them, and they don't realize it.
Yeah, Dustin, always good to talk to you. I think it's safe to say both you and I, from different sides of the political aisle, are voting no on Measure 2. Safe?
Absolutely, and if anybody wants to get involved, visit our website at protectnd.com. Sign up for updates. Sign up to help. We got to get the word out